Well, hello everyone, and welcome to episode 115 of Impact Makers. Dustin, how did we make that work out that on 415 we're on episode 115? It's like, the 15th
We
is like a big deadline
we
thing in
we did
in
not plan that
CPA
out.
firms, right?
I had no idea. I didn't even make the connection until you started bringing it up.
I know I had to remember what episode it was, and I went, wait a second, that worked out pretty slick. But a question for us today, Dustin, I'm gonna pose it to you. With where firms are going, kind of where they've been to now, this focus on advisory, take advantage of AI. Where do high performers fit in? Are we, are high performers, succeeding? Firms set up to, set them up with AI, and they can become, multiply themselves, or is there is there something else that we're seeing that we need to focus on with respect to high performers?
And I got to give a shout out to Dennis Sharon. I had lunch with him yesterday. We're we're a couple hours apart, but we meet in the middle every so often for lunch and to talk shop. And he just let me talk a little bit yesterday, and as I was talking, and I had this idea that hit me, and so that's where this conversation is originating from. But it was the idea that we don't have enough advisors in our firms, and with the growth and application of AI, it's going to make having advisors in your firm even more important. And here's the thing: I've been saying this for a number of years. Some of you have heard me say this before. I said to Dennis yesterday. I don't know if that might have been the first time he heard me say it, but what I've observed in CPA firms, being either in a firm or consulting to firms for 20 years now, is you're high. A lot of times, high performers leave the firm. We can, for a variety of reasons. Firms are good at weeding out the low end, the low performers. And so one of the risks that a CPA firm has is you're left with a lot of average. Now, I'm not saying there's plenty of high performers that
Yeah.
still stay in the firm and make their way up the ladder into partner and all that. That's no doubt about it. There's some we interact with them all the time on a weekly
Hmm.
basis. Every client of ours we have has a lot of high performers, but we lose a lot too. And I think part of the issue here is that I want to bring up, and we're not going to do it justice in a few minutes here on this video, but we want to hear your thoughts on it. Those high performers see a different path, and maybe they don't want to go down the traditional CPA path. They don't want to just do tax returns or do audits the rest of their life. And so they either bail, or some firms that are, maybe a little bit more open to new ways of thinking. What they've done historically has been, when they have someone that doesn't necessarily fit the traditional mold, that's a high performer, a rising leader, they find, or they make an internal role for them around operations, innovation, transformation, whatever buzzword you want to use. They find a spot for them to do that, and that's where they can help the firm. That's all well and good, but the aha I had yesterday in my conversation with Dennis, and we had a great conversation this morning before we pushed record on this, was what what if there's another path, and not just taking them away from client facing and from all of that potential future revenue that they could generate. What if there's another option where we give them, in a low risk manner, opportunity to just go straight to that advisory role? Every client they work with, it's advisory first.
Hmm.
That you have your team, the machine can do the team, and when I say
Yeah.
machine, the technology can do the compliance work, and the team that you have back in the office.
Yep.
But some of these people need to be out in the community, out in front of clients, the proverbial, shaking hands, kissing babies. That's what they love. They
Yep.
want to be talking to people. They want to be out and about. Well, give them that opportunity. Let them figure out the packages, the offerings, the service model, how that
Yep.
works. You're not getting their revenue anyways if they're going internal. So
Yep.
give them some space, give them a couple of years to build that up. And I bet you're going to find some of these high performers are going to love that new
Yep.
role. And now you've got a model that you can then deploy to others to take on if you need that model to help you get into a better advisory path for your firm. So long way of coming around to, we've got a new idea for those high performers.
Yeah. And what I like most about your aha there, Dustin, is firms have already crossed the what do we do with this person dynamic. And what I mean by that is they've already made it okay for them not to be revenue generating, but they came up with new performance metrics.
Yes.
And so you're already innovating on performance metrics in your people.
Yes.
Just go a little bit further and change those performance metrics on new service offerings, because we all know that a brand new service offering, the time it takes to launch something, it's not going to have the same dynamic as an existing service. If somebody was handling $500,000 of revenue, I'm just picking a number, to say, well, you need to replace that $500,000 of revenue that you were servicing with this new advisory within 9 months. What we, again, making up a number, but being a little bit extreme to say that's what the existing model would force you to. You already said, hey, you can go internal and do this. You came up with some sort of performance metrics to measure their performance. Do that same type of thought process, give them a runway to be client facing and advisory, figure out this advisory component. Love it.
Yeah.